Welcome to the Live It Right podcast, hosted by John and Caitlin Lindsay. We're going to be talking all things health and wellness, from food, fitness, relationships. So if you want to live your best life and live it right, join us for this conversation.
So whether you're a health enthusiast, a busy professional, or someone looking to achieve a more fulfilling life, you're in the right place. Tune in, subscribe, and join our community as we explore the path to living it right.
Let's go.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Live It Right podcast. It is, we've got episode 20 on deck tonight, and clearly this is not John. You are officially our first guest. I am pumped. We finally have someone joining us this evening. This is Thomas. Fun fact about Thomas, I actually found him on Instagram before we moved to Brevard, and we will not go into detail about the video that was served to me, but it was definitely about properly peeing off the bike. And I literally looked at John and I was like, I will never do this. I don't know what this guy is talking about. Let's fast forward here. Now I have completed my first half Ironman in Chattanooga, and I've caught the bug, and this guy's now my coach. So we're not going to discuss the video that I came across today, but we're going to discuss things all, Ironman, multisport. I am pumped to have him on. If y'all did not listen to the last episode, clearly I've caught the bug, which I was warned would happen very quickly. So Thomas is now officially going to kick my ass and make me the best version of myself that I can possibly be, which I'm pumped about. So Thomas Skelton, founder of Merge Multisport. You have been in this field for about 16 years. So I'm going to hand over the mic to you and kind of give us a little background, what made you fall in love with the sport, and kind of how it evolved to this becoming your full-time career.
For sure. Yeah. I guess first off, I should thank the Instagram algorithms.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, goodness gracious. So I'm wordy, so I'm going to try and make this super simple. So growing up, played competitive junior golf and constantly worked on getting better. It was something I was interested in. I was passionate about trying to get better, and that eventually turned into me finding a love for helping other people trying to get better at it. So I was a PGA teaching professional for years, and absolutely derived so much value out of my life from helping others do something that I was super passionate about. Started dating this lady who was a teacher and realized I work holidays and weekends. She doesn't work holidays and weekends, and neither of us make any money. So I need a big boy job, and eventually got out of the golf business, got in the corporate world, did well, but in the time getting out of the golf business, got into triathlon and fell in love with it myself, and did not love the corporate world, red tape, kind of, all the rules, regulations, dot the I's, cross the T's, which are good to be there, right? But it's just not kind of a thing for me. And eventually, over the years, I just said, I really want to be able to help people do something that I really love, and never thought that I had enough credit or clout or knowledge to be able to do that. And finally, my wife talked me into going to USA Triathlon Level 1 coaching certification. And I went, and that kind of let me realize that I probably knew more than I thought. I just needed to have a little bit of belief in myself, and just kind of jumped in and did it kind of on the side as a passion project while I was still in the corporate world, and kind of kept it in a small frame. And then eventually COVID hit. It was actually for us, it was kind of as hard as it was for a lot of people, for us, it was a little bit of a blessing, because my wife and I were both working from home together every day, which was an absolute gift. And, my business actually grew during that. People were looking for purpose. They were looking for something to do while there was a lot of unknown in the world, even though races weren't happening. And the business grew, and I looked over at my wife one day and I was like, I think I want to, and I think I can do this full time. What do you think? And she was, we always joke, and she said, I'm in education. I'll never be able to be your sugar mama. But if it's something you love and are passionate about, and think, you can make it work, I have all the belief in you. And I said, hey, if it doesn't, I'll go back to the corporate world and keep pushing on. Yeah. And thankfully, 5.5, 6 years ago, and never looked back.
The crazy thing, so you mentioned a minute ago, you were like, I didn't think I was qualified, or I didn't think I have, that is those limiting beliefs. It's crazy. I'm sure that you look back and you're like, holy shit, what if I had listened to that? What if I had listened to those tiny words? So I said the same thing about myself numerous times. I never went to culinary school. I'm self-taught. I started cooking when I was 5 years old in the kitchen with my mom. I'm self-taught. I've built my business on word of mouth alone. But if I had listened to those things of like, your kitchen's not good enough, you never went to culinary school, like, think of where I'd be now. And it's really cool when that fire just grows so big that you just listen to it. It does help when you have a significant other that can help, that little push. But so so when did Merge start?
So Merge started as the kind of side bit 2018, late 2018. And then, I kept to kind of a small athlete load.
What is that considered? What is small athlete load?
I guess it's all relative, because at first, I think when I had 5 athletes that I was coaching, I was like, how do people coach, 20 athletes, right?
Yeah.
And, I kind of over time and had some mentorship that helped kind of develop some systems and just spreadsheets, right, for tracking and organizing things. And it just, as you you get the hang of things, become more efficient as you do over time. So like what I see as a small athlete load now is not the same, or a lot is not the same as a lot back then, or small now versus small then. So I got sidetracked with my thinking.
No, you're good. As far as, you talk about, you kind of started, how many athletes do you have now?
It fluctuates depending on the season races as they flow. Between myself and my assistant coach, Lisa, we're probably somewhere, we go between probably 45 and 55 athletes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And going off that, you mentioned, so I know one question I had, and I know a question that people would probably enjoy hearing about, is kind of, what is your approach to coaching? And I know I've asked you this question, but is it, because you say that it fluctuates, so is there a small percentage of people that's like, hey, I want to do X, I want you to train me for X? Or, because I know what you told me, but I want you to share the approach that you really are passionate and deeply rooted in is more of the, I'll let you take it from here.
So in general, I think, I guess kind of, the 30,000 foot view, I feel like my job as a coach is if there's someone that wants to work with me and there's someone that's going to do the work and cares about it and is passionate about it, like my job is to meet them where they are and based on where they are and what their goals are, right? So I do have some people that maybe come in and like, hey, I'm doing this marathon in 6 months that I want to try and do, or I really want to do this half Ironman. I've done a couple sprints, and it's just, they just want to go up in distance, and that's fun. It's a new challenge for them for sure. The thing, and I do love that. The thing that probably really like gets me out of bed in the morning is the people that have like a real passion for not just trying to do a race, but wanting to get better year after year after year, because I've seen over time for myself and other athletes that I've worked with, and I guess it probably applies to anything, right? With your cooking, with golf, any sport or any endeavor, any craft, right? Woodworking, I don't really care. Is the longer you're in it, the more you do it, the more kind of adept and skilled and the more you can build. And so those athletes that I get to see year after year after year after year build, those are the ones that I get really excited about. They're the ones that, yes, they're doing races, and I love racing and I encourage athletes to race a lot. But we're kind of looking more at, kind of performance development on a broader scale, and then kind of races just happen to kind of get in the way, right? So the goal hopefully is that athlete that starts at like point A kind of can move to B, C, D, all the way down to wherever they want to be. Those are the ones that really, that really excites me.
Well, it's interesting because like I've mentioned, this, and most people that have known me my whole life, I mean, I was a competitive athlete year round, starting at a young age. I was a competitive swimmer young. Then I went into sports, team sports, in high school, did the normal college thing. Maybe could have gone to a tiny school, but I was more interested in like being an athlete, because I was like, I'm not going to go pro in anything. So let's enjoy college. But it literally, it was the weirdest thing. I told, I was telling John, I was like, when I decided to sign up for the half Ironman, and I literally had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, we're just going to figure out. I love biking. I swam as a kid. I've always liked running. Let's just figure out how to do this shit, because I'm not going to hire anyone before I've even done one. I was like, I got to make sure that I'm ready to drink the juice. But it literally, because I've gotten questions. They're like, you're hiring a coach. And I'm like, what people don't understand is like a passion can still be like a big part of your life. And you can find those athletes that are passionate about becoming the best version of themselves and really focusing on longevity. It doesn't have to be their full-time career. And that's one thing that I found, that is what the fire inside of me that fueled me, is I'm like, this is going to seep into the rest of my life. I mean, John and I, like the environment that we've created in this home, like based on finally finding stuff that we're excited to train for, it has filtered into our work ethic, the way that we operate our daily lives, the importance of nutrition, sleep, all of it. It all encompassing has been a positive influence on our lives from a wellness perspective, for sure. But I guess it's, what does that said, let's like take me as a, like your prototype, whatever. What, we just started working together, like as in like 48 hours ago. What is kind of like, how do you operate without giving away any like valuable information? How does this work? Because I want people to understand kind of like what I've signed up for.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy to give away as much information and knowledge. I mean, I had a coach mentor years ago, and basically he told me, like, you should be trying to make your athletes so knowledgeable, so dangerous that they don't need you. Right. And that's a cool thing. Like I want my athletes to get faster than me. Right. I want them to know more than me. And, so, you can joke about like not giving away anything, but I'm always happy to. Right. And, but as far as like what it normally looks like, I'd say the most important thing to do is I need to understand each individual athlete, their kind of their makeup, their physiology, like how they, try not to go down the rabbit hole too much, but basically like how you work, how you produce power, what are your, what are the strengths of your different energy systems, right?
Which this is what I'm really excited about, is the data,
yeah,
which I've never seen on like my body and my performance. So I'm really pumped about that.
Yeah. And it's super fun because, ultimately, end of the day, like I pride myself on helping people get to new distance finish lines, right? The person that's done a half and wants to do a full, or done a sprint, wants to do an Olympic, whatever it is. But being able to look at people and assess them and like see like physiological changes over time, see increase in VO2 max, critical power going up, fat max, like their technical abilities, their swim skills, like that's the stuff that really gets fun. But ultimately in like a very simple way, it's, try and test, get an idea of the athlete's physiology, what makes you tick. And then we train. It's kind of the scientific method, in that we get that information, we kind of formulate a hypothesis of what needs to be done, and then we go and we test that theory out. You go do a block or two of training, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever we kind of need to do or determine we need to do, and then we circle back and we test again. And I think a lot of coaches don't like to test frequently because it kind of puts, I can't think of the proper expression, but basically it's kind of like, well, it is what you decided to do. Did that actually work or not?
Yeah.
Right? Because the goal is to make adaptations. And the hard part with coaching is there's a lot of science to it, but there's also a lot of art to it. And so, you did a bike test today, and I'll run those numbers tomorrow, and I'll formulate a hypothesis pretty quickly about the kind of work we need to do to get you to keep growing and advancing and build your fitness. And I could be wrong. And that's a hard part. And a lot of coaches, we're humans, right? Like, so, it's using science, using my experience, using, honestly, like peppering, mentors that have even more experience with me with questions sometimes if I need. And then taking that and saying, okay, like, let's work with it. And then you work with it. We apply that stress, that stimulus to the body. And then, a couple weeks, months later, we test and we see, did we get the desired response that we were looking for?
Well, it's interesting to me that you said that you mentioned that a lot of people don't like testing, because that was something that intrigued me about, like, when we sat down and talked and I asked you, I said, okay, what does this look like? And that was one thing you mentioned. The only way of tracking or being able to put a label on the success and the progression is to test again. That's what I believe too. Plus, I'm very competitive. So being able to see, if I don't see progression, like, stuff's going to get real for this girl. So it's been really cool to see. I mean, even today, you know, I told Thomas, I was like, I've learned very quickly to put only a certain amount of data visible, at least this first testing round, because I'm so competitive. I just wanted to see, mentally working as hard as I could, what that would show me. And I'm interested also to see how off I was on what I thought I could do. But it's, yeah, I'm really just pumped. And one thing I will say, and I know this will not interest everyone listening, but something that is talked about a lot, especially now with women. And one thing that really intrigued me is just maybe share a little bit. I know that he uses something called Training Peaks. If you've never heard of it, basically in a nutshell, it's a training platform where he can communicate with me, vice versa. He can upload workouts and stuff like that. But they're coming out with a way to work around a woman's menstrual cycle, because I will tell you, if you're a woman, you know, it's noticeable. And that's something that's interesting to me, because especially with endurance training, maybe you can elaborate on this more, but that is something that heavily affects, I would say, success, drive, motivation, all of that, and be able to work alongside that. I don't know, maybe you have a little bit more insight, but that's something that interests me as well. Because when John and I would just do stuff together, I'd be like, I feel like shit. I cannot do this today. He's like, I don't get it. And I'm like, no, you don't.
Like, no, yes, he doesn't.
No.
Nor do I.
Yeah. But that is something that's now, which is awesome.
I think it's really important. I mean, honestly, if guys are simple, right? Like,
yeah,
whatever. But, you know, women are very different, right? Like, bodies are designed to be able to, like, create and you know, grow this living being inside you, right? Mm-hmm. And there's a lot that comes along with that. And unfortunately, that means there's extra complications. Unfortunately, fortunately, take it however. I don't mean that to come off as a negative, but that just means there's other challenges or things that we have to consider, especially when we're really chasing performance, right? Because a lot of times with women, I think it's probably more, and I don't want to stereotype, but there's definitely more underfueling issues.
Oh, I
right?
don't doubt that at all.
I mean, I struggle with those too, and I know plenty of other guys that do, but and maybe guys don't talk about it as much. But it's definitely, in my experience with the female athletes that I work with, it's more of a common theme there. Mm-hmm. And then when you combine like high volume endurance training with intensity and underfueling, like the recipe for hormonal just cluster is like, it's ripe for the picking, right? Mm-hmm. And so being able to time like specific workouts with different phases, like, hey, like you're not going to feel good in this phase, right? Like, this is a great week for like low intensity, lower volume recovery week, extra sleep. Go get some tasty pastries, right? You know where to go for that.
I'll never tell you no.
And then, okay, next week, like we can kind of build work. And then, okay, it's time to recover. But the thing that's interesting is that over time, as our bodies adapt and change, right? Men and women, right? Like you might say, hey, you know, I felt really weak during this phase for a couple months, but I've actually been feeling better than I thought. And so that's again where we can take like the science says this phase you should be really weak and lethargic versus this phase you're going to feel really good, and it's not just black and white, and that's kind of the fun thing too.
Well, I will tell you, and I made this very clear. One of my favorite parts of doing this is the ability to eat. I get to eat a lot more than I ever was able to. Now, I would highly not recommend eating the diet that we are on unless you are an endurance athlete and you are exercising as much as we are, because we are consuming a lot. But it was interesting. I will tell you, one thing John mentioned, and he said it in the last podcast, he asked me, he said, could you have gone harder? And I was sitting there, and I think it was because at the very end, I had no idea what I was doing with fueling. And I will tell you, when I first started cycling, I was literally operating off of underfueled performance for months and months on end. I never ate enough. I had no idea. Like, that was something it was so foreign to me. When he asked me that, I will tell you, and I haven't even said this yet, I should have said it on that, but when I was in Chattanooga, I think I fueled so well that there was this unexpected, aside from the adrenaline, there was this unexpected, I'm like, okay, my body feels like overly good, but I don't know what to do with it. Because I had not dialed in nutrition until like the end. And then my body was like, we feel awesome. But I'm like, I don't know what to do. Am I going to go too hard and then like fall flat on my face? Like that was my biggest fear, was burning out. I didn't want to be that person that at mile 9 or mile 10 of the half was like, I can't move my legs. Yeah. I'm going to have to walk. So I think that's probably a big common mistake a lot of endurance athletes make, is underfueling, right?
For sure.
What is, I think a couple questions I had just from like the endurance standpoint, we talked a little bit about fueling and stuff like that. What sets successful endurance athletes or multi-sport athletes apart from others? What characteristics or values do these people hold, or can they adapt to that set them apart?
Yeah, I think it's interesting if you look at successful people in any field, and you find common denominators, mm-hmm. right? Like there's the general consensus of doing things whether you want to or not. So it's kind of like, I have this goal, I have this thing I want to do, and sometimes you just have to turn your brain off, right? Like, it's a dedication versus motivation kind of a thing, right? Like I'm dedicated to this task, to this goal that I have, and I'm not going to overthink it. Like mm-hmm. I've got this bike I got to do today. This is my time window to do it. I get up, I eat, or have a little coffee, and I go smash it and move on with the day. Mm-hmm. And I think the people that don't succeed as well are the ones that tend to maybe overthink. Oh, I'm a little tired today, or I'm a little hungry, or maybe that was kind of a hard ride yesterday, or whatever. And you kind of get like paralysis with thinking about all these things because it's not perfect, and you kind of realize that like trying to hope that everything's going to be perfect and you're going to feel great all the time it's unrealistic. And when you kind of let 100%. That go, and you say, this is what I'm going to do. It's the same thing as building a business, right? Mm-hmm. You just say, I'm going to have good days and I'll have bad days. And frankly, I don't give a shit, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is what I'm trying to make happen. And I have to work hard on the good days just as much as I have to work hard on the bad days.
And I think one thing that I've noticed is, it really is a discipline factor, but something that John and I have talked about is like, one thing I see that I've noticed a difference in is I now understand the privilege I have and the opportunity that I have. I look at being an endurance athlete as such a privilege. I have, not having my dad here, I think about that a lot. Like I have people in my life I've lost who are incapable of physically doing these things. And I can be not just an example of someone who values and appreciates this privilege that I have, but to be able to push my body to the lengths that I can is like literally almost like brings me to tears. Cause I'm like, we have so much opportunity to make a positive influence on people.
Yep.
No matter what that encourages people to do. But I think that's something that like, I've told him I've been watching like documentaries and stuff like that. And that's the one thing I see across the board. Doesn't matter what they have to have on you have a meeting at 7, you get up 3 hours earlier and you get your workout in because you have the opportunity to do that. And that's something that I do have a reason for saying all of that I'm really, what drew me, not just to you, but to being part of this is the community.
Absolutely.
And you told me that is something I have yearned for. Do I love riding with my husband? Do I love getting out and doing adventurous things with him? yes. But one thing a hole has been missing in my heart is the community. And I don't know if you want to touch a little bit on, because that's very important to you and part of why you built what you built. And I just kind of want to give you a chance to talk through that, because I know that I can see it in your eyes when you talk about it, is the importance of community. Yeah,
for sure. And something because that was sticking in my head that I ended up saying with talking about kind of the ones who succeed and the ones who don't. Sorry to kind of circle back to that, is I think eventually over time with that dedication, you kind of start to get an appreciation for what you're able to do, whether it's a good day, bad day, and you kind of fall in love with the process of trying to get better. Yes, we're all goal outcome driven, but at some points, if you're just focused on that outcome, there's a great video on YouTube, and I want to say it's something along the lines of, it's about goals, and it's basically like goals are a hamster wheel, right? Versus, you know, when you're constantly thinking about the outcome, you're failing every day, versus if you're focusing on the process, you have the opportunity to say, well, this is what I have to do procedurally to execute every day.
Right.
And you get to win every day. And that's a very rewarding thing, right? Versus if you're just focusing on that finish line, you're never succeeding until you cross that finish line. And then that feeling's over. Whereas I know for me and a lot of my other athletes, you cross that finish line and you go, okay, cool. That was awesome. It was a great day. It wasn't a great day. Doesn't matter. I'm going to recover tomorrow, and I'll probably be back in the pool the next day doing an easy swim, and I'm just going to keep chipping away. So I just felt like that was important to put out. But as far as the community is concerned, I mean, yeah, I think the way we live lives, right, we tend to be very isolated. Like we're not tribal like we used to be, but we are inherently like tribal people. Like we feel good and we do better when we're around our people, right? We go to work, go to the job, come home, you're around your family. Nothing like being around your family is the best thing ever. Don't get me wrong. But we are made and designed evolutionarily to be around our people, right? And I think the great thing about the sport is it gives an opportunity for that. So something that definitely matters to me a ton, and it's why, like, for colors with kits that we have for people to be able to wear, like I want them bright and vibrant. I want people to be able to see their teammates or other coached athletes. Right. A mile, 2 miles away out on the course, right? To know, and then, like, you know, if it's out and back and you're crossing, they're like, hey, look good, high five. And, you know, the energy that comes from being part of a community,
100%,
I think is you can't quantify it. It's so awesome.
And that's what, I mean, like I said, I love doing stuff with my husband, but like that was one thing that was missing. It is the common denominator, because like he loves gravel riding. I tried it once, not my favorite. I probably will for now. I mean, I'm sure I'll get into it. We live here. Come on now. I'm going to have a gravel bike and have a mountain bike, but there's something about finding your people. And like the feeling I felt when I was done with that, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be. There was a reason why I'm really big. I'm a sentimental person. It was like, there's a reason why I swam as a kid. There's a reason why I've been cycling these last few years. There's a reason why I've always loved to run. Why not marry the three of them together? Oh, wow, there's something that exists already. So, absolutely. You know, it was a spur of the moment, sign up, just freaking do it. But it has completely brought out this side that was like of me that was kind of gone. But the community side of it, it's just like, I'm part of a team again. And that's something that I've missed being part of all of these years. And speaking of like, do you have, you know, you talking about one thing that I love that you focus on is like loving the process. It's not just about the race. You focus more on the process and the development and the training. Is that something that you often find having to teach, or have you been fortunate to find people that's kind of like natural?
I'd say both sides of that coin.
Yeah.
I'd say for me, focusing on the process is something that's always come relatively easy. And I think it goes back to like my history with growing up and playing junior golf and taking lessons and working to get better. I would be happy to go for, you know, hours on a Saturday, get out of the house and go practice because I loved it. And so I think there's a little bit of like attracts like. But then there's also some people that are this sport also attracts people that are very goal oriented, right? And they're like,
yes,
I want to ride this power. I want to ride, you know, run this pace. I want to do this time. And I think that's really good too. I think that can be really motivating for some people, but also having to recognize those people that this is an opportunity to, if we keep focusing on these outcomes don't happen every day. So we've got to reframe and try and teach this person to focus more on the day to day, knowing that if we do what's right day to day, the outcomes will be the best they can.
Yeah.
But we still look at the outcomes. For sure.
Well, duh. It was really cool. I was watching one of those documentaries, and one of the coolest things I told John about this that I heard a professional say, I cannot remember who it was, but she basically said she was not having a good race. She had dropped out of the top 10 and she was focusing on just finishing, and she was putting all this pressure on herself. She said, when I crossed the finish line, all I could think about were those women that were so far behind me, but yelling and screaming my name, pushing me when they would pass. And she's like, the cool thing about this sport is that, yes, there's a first, second, third. Yes, there are winners. But you know what? Every single person there, and this is something I saw a glimpse of, people just completing a half Ironman was the goal. They didn't care about standing on a podium. They cared about doing something healthy for their body and training for something that was hard. And that's something that I really was attracted to. Was it's not a sport where like, you know, you have your season, you have your, you know, the whole, whatever it is, NBA, you know, tournament, all that, you have a winner, you're done. This is something that everyone, you see such staggering goals, dreams, all these kinds of things. It's just something that really like motivated me. Also, that I was telling John, I was like, these three, I mean, running gets a lot. Cycling, like there are some badass athletes out there. Like I feel like cycling, I mean, in the United States, in Europe, it's totally different, but I've just seen a different side of sports. I've grown up watching organized team sports, and it's just opened my eyes. It's for you as a coach, like what is probably the coolest thing to see when it comes to, because I mean, you have people probably way across the spectrum. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. You know, I'm a wordy person too, but just like what is the coolest thing that you get to watch, seeing like just such a wide spectrum of people and differences, I guess, in your athletes?
Trying to narrow it down to one is a lot.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, I think it's super rewarding, as much as I talk about like really liking the performance mindset and people looking to grow year over year, like getting to be there and see somebody finish their first half or do their first full is super exciting. Like that is, it's just, it's more of like, it's the thing that's like, oh, I'm doing the right thing, right? Like I have this vision. One of my favorite stories, or a kind of a memory that sticks out, is I had an athlete who was doing her first Ironman, doing Ironman Tulsa. And if she's watching, she'll know this is about her. So hi. I'll probably send it to her. But so she was signed up for Tulsa before COVID. And like maybe a month before Ironman Tulsa, for the first year, it got canceled because of COVID. Everything got shut down, postponed, right? So she had this big mental hurdle of like, I've done all this work, I've done all this prep, and I need to take a mental break because it felt like the rug got pulled out from under her. Long story short, next year it ends up happening. Lindsay and I go to support, and you know, get to see her out on the course, get to see her at the shuttle to get out there, whatever. But the coolest image I have, so at Tulsa they would run up this road and then take a right. The road that they ran up had some like lights over it at night, and then the finish line was in the distance, and it's like front lit, so like you see the shadow of the people, and so like she's running and like she just like puts her arms out and she's like crossing the finish line, and we're probably, I don't know, 40-50 yards away, and I got a picture of it, but I just remember seeing it like that moment in time like really stuck in my head, and it was just like I can remember like her training, the rug getting pulled out, having to regroup, and then just like crossing the finish line with arms out, and I was like, this is the coolest thing. I love what I do. It was awesome.
I don't know. I think I said something to John about this. I was like, I can only imagine what it feels like to be Thomas when you get to like watch, especially multiple people. Like that, literally, I was like, it gives me chills, and I'm not even you.
It's hard because, you know, for the most part, like once you have a lot of control, I don't mean to, you have a lot of like control over how people do what they're doing, how they're progressing, et cetera, especially when they're good and consistent with their work. But once that gun goes on race day, like, you know, you don't have, it's like the baby bird's left the nest, right? You have to hope that you've instilled in them the skills and the knowledge to be able to execute well in the different moments that happen. And that's a little bit scary for sure. It is fun. I will say, like when someone's looking at like trying to get a slot for Kona or Nice or like half Ironman or Ironman World Championships, because you know you're spending a lot of time and energy looking at the tracker, looking at splits, seeing where they are in their age group, how many minutes behind, what speeds are they riding at, what speeds is this other person riding at or running. You know, this person's running 630 miles, but they're in 7th, but these people ahead of them are running 650 miles, so technically they're gaining 20 seconds per mile. So you're going through all the math of like how many miles till they're going to catch them. Do they have enough time to catch them? And that stuff gets really exciting too.
So you're basically explaining what you're going to be doing while I'm competing next time?
Damn right. I hope
so. Okay. Well, we are going to turn the tables a little bit. I'm going to ask you some fun questions. Okay.
Deal.
All right. So favorite race and why?
Oh God.
I know 16 years. I know.
There's so many good ones. I mean, I was fortunate enough to do Challenge Aruba. 2015, it was the first year. They did it for 3 years. I loved that. Challenge Aruba was a ton of fun. There was just like very specific moment where they had like a drone. I think I finished I think I was second or third overall small race. Don't give me too much credit. And like going down in the aero bars, like just hammering, and there's like a drone that drops in front and like pulls away as I was riding.
Sweet.
And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. So that one's definitely high up. There's a lot of really cool ones, but that's definitely high up there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Most humbling moment in your personal training journey?
I mean, I have shit the bed so many times. Like from not checking my ego and I mean, even my first 70.3, like I think I had a little over 3 hour bike split. And I think my run was like 3:15. Like my run was slower than my bike. So, I've had lots of days like that. Even my first Ironman, I got off the bike and I think I was in 6th in my age group. And one of my teammates at the time told me, like, you're 6th in your age group. And I'm like, they're like 5th place is a minute up the road or something. Like I shouldn't have been concerned with that information at all in my first. And mile 8, like I am done, blew up. Like there's a picture of my wife, like trying to, give me a smack on the butt as I'm, running on the highway, and you can just see it in my face. Like I'm empty. So like I've humbled myself plenty by not checking my ego, and so yeah.
Well, also I've learned that you can't listen to people on the course, because I just read that someone in Hamburg, someone told her that she was off course, so she made a turn. She was disqualified because she basically cut a corner by listening to someone. So don't listen to anyone on the course.
You have to know where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
All right, dream race destination, or have you done them all?
Yeah, Kona would be amazing. Nice as well. I would. We're gonna try and get a slot for Kona at Wisconsin this year. It's not an exciting course. It's a boring, just not super
Kona?
technical. Yeah, it's just hot. The highway's boring, but it's legendary. Like that's
where it started.
Iconic. So that certainly is beyond high on the list.
Cool.
For sure.
Pre-race meal.
Oh, bread, jelly, and coffee. Like plain white bread, jelly, and coffee with some creamer.
What is the one thing you would tell people not to eat?
Oh.
Or consume before?
Steak, bunch of fat, bunch of protein.
Yeah.
Like just carbs, simple, what you can get in, digest.
So speaking of that, was pre-race meal. So what about the carb loading phase, which was my favorite? What is your favorite thing to eat during that time?
So I really like Swedish fish, but sometimes I get frustrated with Swedish fish because they can get like really chewy.
I'm not a candy girl.
So like
baked goods.
The candy, baked goods are great. But the tough thing with some of the baked goods, like you get a really damn good croissant and there's a ton of butter that was made properly, right?
That's true.
So that's a little tough. I mean, honestly, like a lot of times with carb loading, like maybe there's after an easy ride, like a good Coke, or just, bread, honey, rice.
I ate rice and eggs. Yeah. I did a lot of pasta, but I like putting fat on pasta, like all that, cheese, all that kind of stuff. So John had made a good point. He was like, you should do rice and eggs. And that was good because I had trouble eating regardless. Yep. A side note though, so I make homemade candy bars, and we're gonna have to give those a try. Because obviously, two of us. That's right.
Quick secret: white rice is magic.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah,
perfect.
Don't tell it to everybody.
Don't tell anyone. If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
I can't imagine doing anything else.
That was the answer I was hoping for.
I do enjoy like working with my hands. Like I think like doing some woodworking, like building things.
Oh, cool.
I would enjoy that. I thought I was going to go into school for engineering when I was younger.
Cool.
So I do like, but I can't imagine doing anything else.
And fun fact, we both went to Clemson.
That's cool.
So, yeah. All right. Is there anything else that I left out that you would like to tell people about triathlons? Anything?
Yeah, this sport is amazing. I mean, honestly, like it's totally changed my life. I've had a lot of really great moments and a lot of low moments and a lot of moments that I've learned from, and I think that have helped me to develop and become a better friend. I hope my friends would say that. A better husband, a better son. I feel like this sport has helped me become a better person as a whole, and I'm really proud of that. So, cool. Yeah.
If one last question is, if someone is interested in looking for a coach, what should they look for? Because I'll tell you, I will respond with what I connected with you on, but I want to hear your side of things.
Yeah, I think, at first, people think about things that are kind of very tangible, right? Mm-hmm. Like, where is the coach? how do they program things? What's communication and feedback like? But I think kind of some of the intangible things like, do I like vibe with this person? Is there good energy? Because I need to be able to tell this person potentially sometimes some really intimate things, right? Like, oh, hey, like, you know, my husband was being a jerk and we had a fight and I felt like I just didn't want to do this right. Like, whatever it is, right? There's a whole host of very personal things that I know about a lot of my athletes that they've shared with me at different times. And it allows me to be able to make sure I'm planning and programming for their development appropriately, and having somebody that you can really talk to and connect with on life and training is really important, I think. So
I did not hire you based on your proper peeing video off of Instagram. It was, hey, the algorithm did something right that day. But the one thing about you, and this is something that's hard for me to admit but I will never forget my high school basketball coach. I asked her one time, I was like, why are you so hard on me? And you are not hard on anyone else. And she was like, that is the only way you will work. And I know from your personality, you are a damn good time. You're a lot of fun. You're funny as hell, but you are going to be that tough love that I have to have. I can't have someone that's not willing to speak up.
Yeah. And there's some people that really need that. And there's other people that don't do well with that at all. And 100%. I know personally, I have a tendency, like my job is to help people get better. So I do have a tendency, I think, to be maybe overly critical sometimes. And I try, especially with people that don't do well with that, like compliment before criticize, right? But I'm, So I think that's something that I'm always working on, is trying to make sure that I'm like supporting athletes in the way that best supports them, for sure. But yeah, I like to be able to bring the hammer down.
But I do think if someone's looking, I kind of approached it's really the vibe piece of it. It's kind of like, I mean, if you're looking for a therapist, like you're not going to go to a therapist that you're not comfortable with, or that you can't have like feel comfortable around. If I didn't feel like I could tell you something personal, or if I didn't feel like you're going to be honest with me, it's not going to work. So that said, where can people find you and Merge?
At races, on Facebook, on Instagram. I do love some Instagram. My personal Instagram's at Merge Coach Thomas. The business. It's
quite comical too.
I actually have a follow-up question, but about the reel you saw.
Okay.
But and then business is at Merge Multisport. And I'm Thomas Skelton on Facebook and Merge Multisport on Facebook as well.
So if you have questions, if you're interested in coaching, make sure drop a message. If you forget the handle he just told you, ask me, but I will tag him in the show notes as well. And I feel like this was just like the tip of the iceberg. We'll definitely have him back to dive deeper into data and stuff. Maybe he can rag on me a little bit once we have a little bit to rag on me with. But thank you. If this episode sparked any sort of fuel fire inside of you, listen to it. It was the best decision I made. I'm pumped to see where this goes.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for joining me today.
Oh, had a blast. I love this.
Alrighty. We'll be back next week with my husband again. See you guys.
Later.